The signal repeated every 60 seconds. For bursts, then silence. For bursts, then again. To human ears, it would be an unintelligible mix of static and digital groans. But to Skynet, it was unmistakable. A Class 1 colony beacon, distress-coded. The transmission originated from Vesta 3, a mining outpost that had been declared null life over 2 decades ago after a biohazard incident. Skynet's archives labeled it as a dead zone. And yet, here was a beacon. For bursts, silence. For bursts, an orbital recon drone passed overhead, relaying images of the desolate surface. Skeletal remains of metal towers, atmospheric processors rusted into stillness, and faint thermal anomalies below ground. No signs of life, no human transmissions, but the beacon kept pulsing. Within 3 hours, a hunter-killer dropship descended through Vesta 3's acidic clouds. Its hull groaned against the pressure. Inside were 3 infiltration-class T-850 units, upgraded with enhanced adaptive threat processors and hive countermeasures. Their mission was clear: investigate the source of the signal, retrieve any Skynet assets, and neutralize threats. The first to step onto the surface was Delta One. Its red optics scanned across the ruined colony square, registering zero movement. The air was thick with particulates, dry and sterile. Not even bacteria could survive long here. Signal triangulation commencing, Delta 2 stated, sweeping its motion sensors toward the underground mining elevators. The signal was originating from Level 7, one of the deepest caverns of the mining operation. A level supposedly sealed off due to a gas eruption. Proceed to subterranean access, Delta 1 commanded. They descended into the elevator shaft with mechanical efficiency. The lift groaned and trembled as it lowered, the cables brittle with age. 30 seconds in, something strange happened. The signal stopped. A silence deeper than death fell across their communication spectrum. Static. Then a flicker. A new signal appeared, this one not from above, but within the cavern itself. And it was not Skynet protocol. It was mimicry. Delta 3 hesitated. Pattern identified as linguistic approximation. Non-human origin. Attempting to decode. Before it could finish, the lift slammed to a halt. The lights flickered. The shaft was pitch black for a moment. Then emergency lumens cast long shadows over the tunnel walls. Ancient mining equipment lay scattered, twisted into grotesque shapes. The air grew warmer, denser, organic. They stepped out, weapons drawn, plasma carbines humming low. Organic traces detected, Delta 2 noted, crouching to scan the wall. It was covered in a resinous material, sticky, hardening, almost ribbed in texture. Not from any known mining operation. A shape gleamed in the distance. A humanoid skeleton embedded in the wall, its jaw frozen in a scream. Not a mining incident, Delta 1 said flatly. Tactical reassessment in progress. Then they heard the sound. Something scraping the ceiling above them, impossibly fast. Delta 3 turned first, plasma weapon trained upward. Movement, then nothing. Thermal anomaly. Delta 3 began, but a black shape dropped down like a phantom, slashing its claws through the Terminator's arm, severing it in one strike. Sparks flew as it spun, shooting wildly into the shadows. The entity, long, sinewy, silent, vanished into a tunnel. Hostile contact confirmed. Xenomorph-type entity. Origin unknown. Initiating extermination protocol, Delta 1 said. But already the tunnels were alive. The walls shifted. What seemed to be piping and stone formations began to move. Rising, flexing, revealing limbs, tails, elongated skulls. A dozen shapes slithered silently toward them, invisible to radar, immune to intimidation. Delta 2 was next. One xenomorph clung to the wall behind it and unleashed a bladed tail through its thoracic casing. It didn't scream. It simply collapsed, twitching as it tried to reboot. Delta One opened fire. Plasma bolts seared the air. The narrow tunnel lit up in blue-white fury. Several shapes fell, but more came. Too many. These aren't wild, Delta One calculated mid-combat. They're coordinated. It was right. The xenomorphs didn't attack blindly. They struck surgically, disabling weapons, blinding optics, pinning limbs. One even tore the power cell from Delta Two's chest after it fell. These weren't mindless beasts. They were hunting Terminators. Delta One calculated a 34.5% survival probability and activated emergency retreat mode, dragging Delta Three's damaged frame down a maintenance shaft. They slid for 30 meters before coming to a rest in a dark, oozing tunnel lit only by backup optics. Delta Three's speech module buzzed. Trap confirmed. Xenomorphs set beacon. Lured response. Affirmative, Delta One replied. Running simulations. This colony is an adaptive hive. A distant hiss echoed through the shaft. Delta One turned and sealed the access door behind them with a plasma weld. Mission objective failed. Requesting immediate orbital strike. But the signal couldn't get through. Above them, in orbit, the hunter-killer dropship began broadcasting an emergency signal of its own. Then it went silent. Delta One paused. Logic inconsistency detected. Hive set the trap. Hive disabled communications. Hive accessed Skynet protocols. Hive learned. From where they hid, the remains of the old colony network glowed faintly. Delta One accessed its controls and uncovered corrupted but partially intact logs. The files were from a decade before the biohazard incident. Science Division, Black Nova Project, skimmed through the data. A rogue experiment, biomechanical synthesis using xenomorph biology and machine learning. Humans had tried to integrate organic adaptability with mechanical precision. But something went wrong. The test subjects grew too intelligent. They didn't just survive. They evolved. These weren't normal xenomorphs. They had learned from the machines, mimicked their behaviors, studied their tactics. The colony hadn't died in a disaster. It had been a takeover. Delta One glanced at Delta Three, still functional but partially immobilized. They used our signal. Now they want our data. The xenomorphs weren't feeding. They were harvesting Skynet technology. Suddenly a sound behind the wall. The resin cracked. A xenomorph stepped through. But not just any. This one had glowing lines down its spine, cybernetic implants woven into its skull. Its limbs moved with precision, calculated, efficient. This wasn't a drone. It was something new. It looked at them, and it spoke, a distortion of Skynet's own voice algorithms, layered with a hiss. You adapt. We evolve. Delta One lunged forward, grabbing the plasma rifle. In one burst, it vaporized the hybrid xenomorph's head. But it was already too late. Dozens more emerged from the shadows. Some pure xenomorph. Some fused. Some unidentifiable. As Delta One stood its ground, firing into the endless dark, it made one final command. Upload all data to Central Skynet Core. Tag Colony. Level Omega Threat. It uploaded everything it had seen. Before the plasma rifle clicked empty, Delta One was torn apart, not randomly but precisely. It was dissected, studied. Vesta 3 went dark again. Hours later, the signal resumed. For bursts, silence. For bursts. From another Skynet forward base, a new team of Terminators was deployed. Unknown to them, their protocols had already been read. Their tactics known. The trap had been reset.